most financially significant event that took place on February 28, 2026, is not going to appear on the majority of bank statements until October, possibly even November. By that point, most people will have completely lost track of what originally triggered it. This is not a figure of speech. That is the real timeline. What began as a military strike targeting Iran has already triggered 5 separate economic shockwaves, all moving toward your finances on different timelines. Each one grows larger than the previous, and by the time it reaches you, it will appear unrelated to its original cause. At the moment, most people are focused on the price displayed at the gas station, doing quick mental calculations, labeling it as inconvenient but manageable, and then moving on. That categorization is incorrect, and the consequences of getting it wrong are not dramatic or obvious. They are subtle. It shows up as a grocery bill that gradually increases without a clear reason. A summer flight that unexpectedly doubles in price. A mortgage rate that was expected to decrease but instead remains elevated. A credit card balance that never seems to shrink. My name is Pam, and I spend more time than most analyzing financial patterns that others prefer to avoid. Today, I am going to walk you through all 5 waves when each one is likely to hit, and exactly what you can do before they arrive, instead of reacting afterward. Let us step back briefly, because the context explains everything. On February 27th, the Foreign Minister of Oman announced a breakthrough in nuclear negotiations between the United States and Iran. Active discussions were underway. Progress was being made. Then, just one day later, on February 28th, the United States and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes across Iran in an operation known as Operation Iron Resolve. The timing, occurring in the middle of active diplomatic talks, will likely be debated by historians for decades. That is not our concern. What matters for us is what has unfolded in the 28 days since. Iran responded forcefully. Ballistic missiles and drone strikes targeted United States military bases across 6 Gulf region countries. Energy infrastructure sustained damage. By March 5th, Iran effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a 21-mile-wide corridor responsible for transporting approximately 22% of the world's seaborne oil supply. By March 18th, commercial traffic through the strait dropped to nearly zero over a full 24-hour period. Under normal conditions, around 135 ships pass through daily. The International Energy Agency described this as the largest energy supply disruption ever recorded, exceeding both the 1973 oil embargo and the 1979 Iranian crisis combined. In response, they released 420 million barrels from emergency reserves, the largest intervention in their history. This was not a routine adjustment. It was an emergency response. Brent crude oil surged from $74 per barrel to a peak near $125 within weeks. It has since stabilized closer to $104 due to temporary ceasefire signals. However, if the situation extends beyond 6 weeks, analysts suggest prices could reach $155 per barrel. The gas price you are currently seeing, approximately $4.15 as a national average, up from $3.05 at the beginning of the month, represents Wave 1. But this is not a single spike. It is 5 separate waves, each arriving at different times, each disguised as something unrelated by the time it affects you. To illustrate this clearly, consider 2 households experiencing all 5 waves. Elena, age 32, a primary school teacher earning $62,000 annually, with $3,800 in savings, investing $220 per month. And Marcus and Leah, working in logistics and healthcare respectively, earning a combined $98,000 with $2,400 in savings and carrying $4,100 in credit card debt at a 23% interest rate. They live in the same city, shop at the same grocery store, and follow the same news. Yet their outcomes will be completely different, not because of income or luck, but because of the decisions they made in March 2026. Now, let us break down the waves. Wave 1 is fuel, the one already visible. The national average has reached $4.15 per gallon this week, rising by $1.10 in under a month. In California, prices have climbed to $6.05. Diesel, which powers the movement of nearly all goods, has reached $5.60 per gallon nationally, marking a 50% increase compared to pre-conflict levels. Here is why diesel matters more than the gasoline in your car. Diesel fuels transport trucks, refrigeration systems, agricultural machinery, and the entire physical supply chain. Every increase in diesel cost directly transfers into the price of goods being transported. A $1 increase in fuel prices removes approximately $165 billion in annual consumer spending power from the economy. The average household is now projected to spend an additional $810 on fuel this year. For Elena, this translates to roughly $52 more per month for commuting. She decided to stop her daily coffee stop that cost $7.10 and adjusted quickly. For Marcus and Leah, the increase is the same $52 per month. They have not made any changes yet because it still feels manageable, and on its own, it is. The issue is that it is not occurring in isolation. This is what not in isolation actually feels like. It is checking your account midweek and noticing the balance is lower than expected, doing quick calculations, and still not finding a clear explanation. It is the sense that money is leaving faster than before, without a specific reason to point to. That feeling is not irrational. It is Wave 1 operating exactly as expected, quietly in the background before the larger waves arrive. Wave 2 is groceries, arriving in 30 to 60 days. It has already started, but it is not yet visible. Diesel does not just move vehicles, it moves food. Perishable goods rely on continuous refrigerated transport, which cannot be delayed or stockpiled for long periods. When diesel increases by $1 per gallon, freight companies pass along 60 to 80% of that increase within 30 to 60 days through fuel surcharges that update frequently. This process is already underway. Before this conflict, grocery inflation was running at approximately 2.6% annually. Economists now expect it to rise closer to 4.8% in the coming months. Beef prices were already projected to increase between 6 and 10% in 2026. Coffee by 5.5%, sugar by 7.1%. Now add a 50% increase in diesel costs on top of those projections. Retailers will absorb some of these costs, but after a year of absorbing other expenses, that buffer is nearly gone. When it disappears, prices adjust rapidly. For Elena, her $360 monthly grocery bill is likely to increase to $405 or even $440. She has already begun preparing meals in batches and canceled a $78 monthly meal subscription. For Marcus and Leah, this increase will feel confusing. They will reach the checkout in May, see their total $60 higher than expected, and assume they purchased more items. If you are wondering why food prices rise, the decision was effectively made during a military event thousands of miles away. This is how global supply chains function. Wave 3 is fertilizer, the delayed effect arriving in October. This is the wave most people are not connecting to current events. Natural gas is the primary input for nitrogen-based fertilizers. fossil fuels represent 70 to 90% of production costs for ammonia and urea, essential for crop growth. Approximately one-third of global fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is currently closed. Within the first week, major producers halted exports. Urea prices increased by 55% within weeks. At the New Orleans import hub, prices rose 35% in a single week. In parts of the Midwest, suppliers have stopped offering price quotes because delivery cannot be guaranteed. The key issue is timing. Spring planting decisions are happening now, and they determine the fall harvest. You will not feel this in April. You will feel it in October. There will be no announcement explaining why certain foods are unavailable or more expensive. It will simply happen, and by then, February will feel distant. Elena cannot fully avoid this wave, but she is aware of it. She has started considering long-term storage options. Marcus and Leah will experience it without warning, describing grocery prices as unusually high without understanding the cause. The first 3 waves affect everyone. There is no income level that avoids higher fuel costs or food inflation. However, waves 4 and 5 create a divide between those who prepared and those who did not. Wave 4 is airfare. Your summer travel plans are already more expensive. Jet fuel has increased by over 65%. Fuel accounts for roughly 25 to 35% of airline operating costs. When that cost rises rapidly, airlines either absorb losses or pass them on to customers. Historically, they pass them on. Analysts now estimate airfare could increase between 18 and 32% for summer 2026. Budget airline fares have already more than doubled in some cases. A ticket that once cost $85 may now cost $185. Unlike groceries, airline pricing is set months in advance. Even if fuel prices drop, ticket prices do not immediately follow. Elena recognized this and booked early. Her ticket cost $305. The same route is now priced at $365. Marcus and Leah delayed booking and will likely face significantly higher costs. Wave 5 is interest rates, the most significant long-term impact. At the beginning of 2026, markets expected multiple rate cuts. Lower borrowing costs were anticipated. That expectation has now largely disappeared. The Federal Reserve held rates steady around 3.75 to 4.00% in March. Rising energy costs increase inflation while slowing economic growth. This creates a difficult situation for policymakers. Mortgage rates have risen to around 6.4%. Auto loans average around 7.2%. Credit card rates range between 22 and 25%. Total credit card debt has reached approximately $1.32 trillion. For Elena, higher rates delay her home purchase, but she remains stable with savings and no debt. For Marcus and Leah, their $4,100 balance becomes more expensive to carry. This is where many people make costly mistakes. Data tracking millions of investors shows consistent underperformance compared to the broader market. The primary reason is emotional decision-making, selling during downturns and buying after recovery. Market recoveries often occur suddenly. Missing just the 10 best days per decade drastically reduces long-term returns. Volatility is uncomfortable, but it is also where long-term gains are created. Elena understands this and continues investing. Marcus feels uncertain and avoids checking his accounts. Over the next decade, their outcomes depend on whether decisions are made based on emotion or strategy. What can you do now? Increase your emergency savings and ensure it earns interest. Many people cannot cover a $1,000 expense without debt. Having that buffer prevents small issues from becoming long-term financial problems. High-yield savings accounts currently offer around 4.1%. If you have high-interest debt, prioritize paying it down. A 23% interest rate is equivalent to a guaranteed return if eliminated. Continue investing consistently. Do not pause contributions during volatility. If you plan to travel, book early. Prices are rising. Review your energy usage and expenses. The situation may resolve quickly, or it may persist, leading to longer-term effects. What is certain is that those who adapt early will be in a stronger position. Elena made small, practical adjustments. Marcus and Leah delayed action. The difference is not income or luck. It is timing and awareness. Most people will spend the rest of 2026 wondering why costs keep rising. You now understand why. The only remaining question is whether that understanding leads to action or simply awareness.